Long scorned by more serious art forms, video game music is finally getting the respect that it deserves, recognising the countless hours of hard work video game composers put in to ensure that the music players hear while playing their games is as good as it possibly can be. Yeah, like that. But what about the video game music that actually most players aren't going to hear, or are going to skip past, or are going to be too distracted doing other things to take in? Surely you can ease up on those bits of music, right? Can probably phone those ones in? Well, not these pieces of video game music that absolutely didn't need to be as good as they were. Enjoy and let us know your picks on this topic in the comments. The entire GoldenEye soundtrack is much better than it needs to be. Most Bond games would be happy giving you a loop of the James Bond theme and calling it a day, but GoldenEye's soundtrack took themes and motifs from the classic Bond films and made them 1,000 times more badass. The pause music is what has blown up online recently, thanks to its extremely modern sound for a game that was released in 1997. The hazy bassline coupled with the synth xylophone melody and menacing beat wouldn't sound out of place in today's music, and it's even more of a flex when you consider that most games in the 90s didn't have any pause music at all. So the composers could definitely have gone down the pub and had the afternoon off if they wanted, but instead they made this. Good choice, I'd say. The Nintendo Wii was an odd console in many ways, from the motion control to the focus on casual gamers to, well, the name.
And get yourself a Wii!
For example, one of the things you're unlikely to see on other games consoles that the Wii put front and centre is an app specifically devoted to weather forecasts. But this Wii weather channel existed, and what's more, Nintendo had music specifically composed for it. Music that is some of the cheeriest, most ridiculously chill sounds we have ever had the pleasure of listening to. Considering that this was a weather app on a video game console, there can't have been too many people who heard this music regularly enough to justify the effort required to make it good. And yet Nintendo clearly felt strongly that Wii-owning weather fans should get to listen to something really pleasant when they were checking the weather in Salt Lake City. Seriously, this channel could be telling me that a tornado was bearing down on my house, ready to destroy me and everything I held dear, and I think this music would make me okay with it. Ask anyone with ears and they'll tell you that the Undertale soundtrack is fantastic, full of catchy jams, emotional resonance, and exactly the music that would play if a killer robot ever made you take part in a quiz show. If there's a standout from the soundtrack, however, it has to be Megalovania, the frantic chiptune meets speed metal masterpiece that has, among other things, been used as a pro wrestling entrance theme, and been played in front of the Pope. That's why it's strange that this universally agreed best song in Undertale only plays during an optional boss fight against Sans on the rarely chosen Kill Everything run that hardly any players will see. There's even another song on the Undertale soundtrack called Song That Might Play When You Fight Sans that doesn't appear in the game's code, so it's possible that Megalovania wasn't always intended for this part of the game. This is a position supported by the fact that the song is one of Undertale creator Toby Fox's first pieces of video game music, with a version dating back to one of his earliest projects, a ROM hack of the retro SNES RPG Earthbound. Still, Megalovania is so strong that it was probably the least heard bit of music in the whole game, and still managed to become the most popular song from the soundtrack, so it was 100% worth it. I mean, still not worth the guilt of doing a Kill Everything run, but you know what I mean. The Yakuza series of open-world crime games are primarily story-based action games that take tens of hours to complete as you fight your way through epic stories of greed, betrayal, and corruption. They're also packed with mini-games. In any given Yakuza game, you could pick from tons of different diversions, including going to the gym, darts, classic Sega arcade games, and urinating. But weirder than that sounds. You could also do karaoke, if you ever found the time, but usually it was a pretty low priority due to, the crime drama, and also the fact that there was generally only one place to do karaoke, an out-of-the-way bar that you'd almost never visit during the course of the main story. Which is all a roundabout way of saying that the Yakuza developers absolutely did not need to make all the karaoke songs in the Yakuza games such unbelievable bangers. Not only are the songs great, but a lot of them have bespoke music videos in which the characters take part in full costume. And the songs span the genres from glam metal to heartfelt ballads. And genuinely the best joke in the entire series, which is fearsome Yakuza enforcer, the mad dog of Shimano, Goro Majima, singing Get to the Top, a song specifically designed for female pop idols that he has to lower by several octaves in order to be able to sing properly.
Let's get to the top.
They didn't have to go this hard, but I'm very glad they did.
Get to the top.
Chances are when you're playing Mass Effect, you're too busy flirting with your crewmates or watching them be carried off by space bees to pay too much attention to the music, unless it's that one bit of club music that they also play on RuPaul's Drag Race. As such, BioWare could have used any bit of vaguely sci-fi sounding music for the Galaxy map, the big holographic space chart that Commander Shepard consults when you're deciding where to go for your next mission. Or even no music at all. It could very easily have displayed over background ambient noise of the Normandy, and no one would have said anything or even noticed. Thankfully, that's not what BioWare chose to do. Instead, they gifted us the Galaxy map theme, a beautiful ambient piece of electronica that's simultaneously calming and an unmistakable call to adventure. Spacey and calm, yet full of mystery and possibility, this is undoubtedly what outer space sounds like. Look, if I take too long to launch the final mission and mess everything up, I guarantee you it's because I spent too long on the Galaxy map screen listening to the music. Sorry, Kelly Chambers.
Get them out of there! Hurry!
Let's play cards. Gwent wouldn't be bad.
Most people who bought The Witcher 3 did so that they could take on the role of Geralt, the grizzled monster hunter who gets off with sorceresses and has two cool swords. Fewer people were playing The Witcher 3 to spend their precious monster hunting time in a tavern playing a collectible card game, which is why it's so impressive that CD Projekt Red made that game, Gwent, so unnecessarily good. Gwent turned out to be so popular that it ended up getting its own standalone spin-off game, but an often overlooked part of its appeal was undoubtedly its soundtrack. The developers could easily have just reused music from elsewhere in the game, but Gwent had its own unique soundtrack that takes this reasonably sedate card game and turns it into a pulse-pounding battle of wits for the ages, thanks to the incredible atmosphere it evokes. As such, I know I spent a lot more time playing Gwent than I was expecting to. I'll get to those monsters in a minute, I swear. 1990's Robocop tie-in game for the Nintendo Game Boy is in most respects exactly what you would expect. A side-scrolling shoot-'em-up in which Robocop guns down hundreds and hundreds of gang members for crimes that involve wearing a waistcoat with nothing underneath and walking towards Robocop. The music is mostly chiptune recreations of the Robocop theme, which are fine even if you mostly can't hear them over all the shooting. The music that plays on the title screen of the game, however, is something completely different. A hauntingly beautiful tune that evokes sadness, loss, and hope, all somehow rendered through the extremely limited hardware of an original Game Boy. I mean, I don't hear this and think Robocop. But then I think about the man who became Robocop, Officer Murphy and his family, his haunting memories, and his coming to terms with his new existence as a machine. That's when the music starts to make sense. Which is pretty effing wild, considering that most players will press start to start playing the game they paid money for within about 4 seconds of the tune starting, and never hear anything past that. Despite the game being long forgotten, this piece of music was so much better than it needed to be that it's still remembered today and became the first piece of video game music to be chosen on BBC Radio Music Show and institution Desert Island Discs, when writer and Black Mirror creator Charlie Brooker selected it as one of his favourite pieces of music. Not bad for a bit of music on the, I remind you, original Game Boy, a piece of hardware with approximately the same audio equipment as a sandwich toaster. So those were 7 bits of video game music that absolutely didn't need to be as good as they were. We'd love to hear your suggestions, so put them in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified anytime we upload a video like this one. Thanks for watching.